Hey everyone, my name is Charles Austian, and this is my presentation on urbanization's impact on the United States environmental health and vitality. Urbanization refers to the population shift from rural to urban areas, the corresponding decrease in the proportion of people living in the areas, as well as the ways in which societies adapt to this change. Many management issues arise because of urbanization. Some include poor socioeconomic equity, poor public health waste and disposal problems, high energy consumption, as well as increasing population density and demands. Since the United States was populated and inhabited by settlers and migrants later than other nations in comparison, urbanization has taken place a lot sooner, a lot more quickly than other developed nations. And this has brought with it many different issues that are, specific to the United States. The first set of data that I found was from Statista, who got their data from the World Bank. And the data essentially just shows the degree of urbanization from the 70s up until 2019. In 2015, the degree of urbanization was 82.7%, but projections estimate that the corresponding figure will be 87.4 by 2050. The second set of data that I found was the EPI, which stands for the Environmental Performance Index. It was created by Yale University in conjunction with Columbia, and it measures how well countries are preserving, protecting, and enhancing ecosystems and the services they provide. These indicators are a way to shed light on problems, set targets for fixing the problems, track trends, and it also helps identify policies that may help remedy some of these situations. More specifically, the measure that I'll be looking at is the ecosystem vitality measure, and it pretty much indicates how well countries are, as I said, preserving and protecting these ecosystems. It comprises 60% of the EPI, and it's made up of categories such as biodiversity and habitat, ecosystem services, fisheries, climate change, pollution emissions, agriculture, as well as water resources. By obtaining all of these different measures, these indicated measures, uh, the EPI is able to paint a picture of how vital the environment is doing in a certain country. All of the data from the EPI seems to be linear, seems to be moving with the degree of urbanization, which is a great thing. Urbanization in the United States was most prominent initially on the East Coast because that's where settlers started. But it gradually, as migrants began to flood in and concepts such as manifest destiny became more known, you can see that urbanization gradually shifted out west. But interestingly enough, a majority of the western states are classed as being more urbanized than any other region of the United States. I find that very interesting. By looking at the graph, you can see that the degree of urbanization over time shows a weak exponential trend um, that is positive. It's going up. That means that the EPI, the environmental performance indicators, should also go up to keep up with the degree of urbanization. So pictured here is pretty much the scorecard that each country will have that highlights the different indicators that you're looking at, as well as their percent change over time. That was very helpful in determining the trends and how they would react to each other through time. So there were a few different statistical tests that I ran on the data. The first one was a bivariate analysis, which investigates the relationship between two continuous variables. And I utilized essentially what's called the continuous by continuous personality of the Fit by X platform to help graph this. And it just shows a graph of the degree of urbanization from the 70s up to 2019. The next graph I have here is a scatter plot matrix, which is a scatter plot that's used to visualize bivariate relationships between combinations of variables. And as you can see here, I've got different variables here such as air quality, unsafe sanitation, and CO2 growth. And it shows the relationships and how they all move together through time. The next graph I created was a cell plot, and it was obtained and plotted by comparing two groups or more. And I had 6 groups. So it's essentially calculated by obtaining the total value of each cells and dividing the total by the total number of observations in that particular cell. As you can see right here, unsafe sanitation is in the red while the rest of them are blue. This means that unsafe sanitation goes down as time changes, while the others go up while time changes. Now, this is a good thing for unsafe sanitation. We want unsafe sanitation to be going down. So this shows a positive relationship between unsafe sanitation and time. The next graph I created was an ellipse graph, which shows the bivariate normal density of the geometric mean of the data. And essentially that indicates the central tendency or typical value of a set of numbers by using the product of their values. The final model that I have is a principal component model, which essentially transforms data sets into visually digestible figures. So first we've got an eigenplot, which is it shows a percent and cumulative percent of the variation of each principal component in the data set. Next is a score plot, which shows the first 2 principal components, which are at a total of 95.6. And lastly, the loading plot shows a correlation between the original variables and the first 2 principal components. And if you look over here, we've got unsafe sanitation, which is the only component that's negative. As I said earlier, we want that to be negative. That's good that that's going down, while you've got things that are going up like air quality. Finally, strong city planning will be essential in managing these and other difficulties as the world's urban areas swell and sprawl becomes more prevalent. By focusing on different aspects of society, we can help improve society as a whole. So combating poverty through economic development and job creation, reduce air pollution by upgrading energy use and alternative transport systems, and even, planting trees to incorporate, green aspects of the city. All these together can help make the degree of urbanization less prominent and noticeable in the future. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my presentation, and I'd love to hear feedback. Thank you.